Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are The Culture.
Welcome to The Culture. I'm here with the Executive Director and Founder for Neighborhoods and Neighborhood Association, Mr. Leroy Jones, as well as the President and CEO for the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, G. Eric Knowles. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, I'm going to start with you. You were able to come up with a wonderful organization to help many mom and pop businesses. As it relates to your organization, do you believe that the county commissioners will move forward with providing grant opportunities once again?
If I heard you correctly, you said if the county will be providing grant opportunities again?
Yes, sir, because I know many of the districts had to stop
Okay.
because of COVID-19. So I just wanted you to address that in the beginning.
Okay. So, in fact, yes, the districts that had to stop, some already now in the process of gearing up to put them out again. So throughout the county, we have, I know District 1, 2, and 3 have already made their recommendations. In fact, they made their recommendation before this COVID-19 thing really came out. So they was in the process of getting ready to have the businesses sign their contract. District 5, 10, and 13 was out and had to pull them back because they had just released them and everybody was panicking, so they pulled them back. District 7 had finished theirs, but just in the process of making the selections. District 8 has not brought theirs out at all, and I'm in conversation with Commissioner Carver's office about when theirs going to come out. District 13 completed theirs on Friday, so they opened theirs back up during this situation and put it back on the website. So they extended their deadline to the 24th, which was Friday, and I'll be receiving their applications today. District 12 signed their contracts Thursday, last week Thursday. So the only districts that that needs to be reopened again is District 8, which never was open.
Mm-hmm.
District 10 had to pull theirs back. District 11, we're thinking of way we're going to do theirs right now. Theirs didn't come out yet.
Mm-hmm.
District 13 is complete. Like I said, District 12 is complete. District 5 is gearing to put theirs back out again. My understanding it should be out very soon. So there we at right now. We have some districts finished. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, and 12, and 13 is completed. So their applications been out. They're not coming out again this year unless the commission decide to put some more money and let me do another round. But as it stands now, those districts are completed. So
Which
they either
one?
don't make.
Did you say
Yes.
4? 4 was completed or it's not?
So 4 came out. I think they pulled it back, but I think it's completed now.
Okay, so the ones that are those districts and small businesses need to be aware of is 5, 8, 10, and 11.
5, 8, 10, and 11. Correct.
Okay, that's good news.
Correct.
That's really
Yes.
good news.
Mhm.
Now, we watched both of you. There was this press conference last Monday on the 10th with the reopening task force, and the mayor had you all speaking about recommendations that would apprise for wide open space to begin for this phase 1. I believe it was mentioned that golf courses, we were also told about parks and boat ramps. would be in that first phase of opening or reopening. Mr. Knowles, do you have any comments about what was the determining factor on that being the beginning of this reopening?
I think what the mayor is trying to do is basically our whole entire community has been in a lockdown, except for essential workers. Essential workers obviously have been leaving their home and going into their place of business or doing the service that they do. And the rest of the community, which is probably 70%, I don't know the exact amount, but we've been told to stay home. So with this process, what the mayor is looking to do, how can we begin to safely let our community back out and begin to realize some sense of normality? It's a new normal now. It's never going to be the same as what we had it. So he looked at the fact that going out into the parks, allowing people to go to golf courses, allowing the boat ramps to be open, where you're somewhat still, you can kind of self-distance that 6 feet that they're asking us to do. You can do that in a park. You can go for a walk. You can go to a park. Families can go into a park together and stay within that family unit and not be on top of one another. The other thing is you have a lot of people who live in apartments, live in condos. So they haven't had the luxury to really be out and get fresh air. So it's a way of allowing our fellow citizens an opportunity to get out into an relaxation and not being cooped up, etc. Same thing with the golf courses and the boat ramps. The thing about boats is if you live and you have your dock behind your house, or your boat is at a dock ramp as it's docked in the water, you can go to your boat and go out. But you cannot pull a boat behind a trailer and go to a ramp where you will lower that boat into the water. Those have been closed. So the mayor is looking at how can we open up these facilities. Golf courses. The way they're looking at golf courses is that the fact that you're out in the open, but I mean, it's looking at restricting it to the point of you can either walk, two people can't be in a golf cart together. Even if it's a husband and wife or brothers, it'll be one individual per golf cart. Obviously, when you're playing golf, you're somewhat of a distance because you're hitting your own golf ball. But again, because of social distancing, it would be one golf cart per person. The fact that golf courses have limited amount of golf carts, it's not going to be everybody. Obviously, that's cut in half because it's two persons per golf cart. Now it's one person per golf cart. Or you can walk. So those are some of the things that they're looking at. And even with the boats, they're saying when you go out in a boat, the boats have to be 50 feet apart. You know, on these weekends where they pull up on the sand dunes and they tie boats together, that will not be permissible once they make the decision to open this up again. They haven't made a decision yet. They're just looking at it.
I even heard that with it being a 30-foot yacht, that would only yield 5 occupants because of
Yeah, I'm not sure of the capacity of the size of the yacht, but yes, you are correct. They are going to limit it to a particular number depending on the size of the yacht.
And then what does that relate to for valet and the other amenities that people would normally have when they go to park their cars? Are they opening up valet?
Well, that's interesting because that's a different conversation. That's the conversation we're actually having now. The parks, the boat ramps, and the golf courses were a separate group of people. People who deal in that, like Rodney Barretto actually was on the boat ramps because he's part of the wildlife and fishing committee throughout the state. So he was on one of those committees. Obviously, Leroy and I deal with businesses. So now they've put together a group of businesses to be on this task force, and they're breaking it down to restaurants. They're breaking it down to large stores. They're breaking it down to museums. And they actually have a museum group. They have a restaurant group. They have a open air office building group. They have a small mom and pop stores group. So back to your question about valet, we're actually looking at it. What is the customer's experience from when they pull up? For instance, if you're going, and I'm gonna use Joe's Stone Crab or Prime 112, because a lot of restaurants you don't necessarily pull up. You go to Red Lobster, there's no valet. So anyway, you go into Prime 112, there's the valet. So we're looking at the customer experience. Does the valet come and open the door, or do you open your own door, close the door? The valet has to wear gloves. The valet has to wear a mask. You as a customer, you have to wear a mask before you enter the restaurant. Is there a doorman at the door, opening the door? Are the doors open? How often do the doors get sanitized? Where do you wait when you walk in? The maitre d' or the hostess? How far do you stand away? How many guests are in a group that could sit at a table? So we're looking at all of those moving parts right now.
And with you mentioned restaurants, with places like House of Mac and Little Greenhouse, what are some things that they probably should be thinking about before restaurants will be able to open up? And Mr. Jones, jump in if you can.
Yeah, go ahead, Leroy. You're on mute.
I think well, I know Eric summed it up really good. I mean, there's nothing else I can add to it other than so one good thing I like about the mom and pop grant program is because it's not a one shoe fit all, right? So each district selection committee has the right to create the process that will fit the needs of the businesses that's in that particular district. So each guidelines for each district is different in the application process. I think we need to look at this virus thing the same way. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that. So if the records are correct, then a mass majority of the people that are dying because of this coronavirus are people of color. So you listen to the media, they say the people of color make up the highest percentage parts of the ethnic group of anybody else. And so we have to be careful that, so when we talk about having a restaurant, if you're a high-end restaurant, of course you can pay somebody to open the door to wipe things down. But if you're a mom and pop restaurant, it's only you and one person, and you got to cater to the people, make sure this thing is being activated the way it should. You got to make sure things, so you might not have the luxury of having somebody open the door for you, so it's a difference based on each community. So in poor communities right now of color, we got stores that, and I made this mention this twice. We got stores around here that don't have soap, don't have wipes, don't have disinfectant right now. And you can see people going in these stores right now, or going these places right now that don't have masks, right? Or they had the disposable masks that ain't no good anymore. So in some of these neighborhoods, opening up quickly is going to be a challenge, because not only you have to worry about the person who running the business, have to worry about the people coming in. The people coming in also got to be mindful too that that's a small business, and it might be tight, it might be close. So it's a whole different animal you got to look at. So where I'm all into us opening up as quickly as we can, because the economy is suffering. But to me, life is more valuable to me than us getting the economy back on track when people are still dying right now in record numbers. Like, people are still passing away in record numbers. And I just hope we don't I hope the emphasis is not weighing heavy more on people that need to make money than human life, So I think the mayor is doing a great job. I think him convening all these committees together in different, you know, in different capacities based on what your skill set is. I just, so I commend that. And most of the people on these boards I know, and I know the commitment, like Eric, to the community. I know all that. And so, I think the boards are right. I think the people on them are good. I just think that we should separate it and make sure we don't do a one shoe fit all, because the one shoe fit all approach might be more devastating in some neighborhoods than others.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
yeah, not to cut you off, and Leroy is absolutely right. And give you an example: barbershops, beauty salons, tattoo parlors, massage parlors. So obviously, in our community, barbershops are prevalent, beauty salons are prevalent, massage parlors not prevalent, but there are some. Tattoo parlors, not prevalent. There may be some, but they have actually been separated from the whole retail industry because of the close contact with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Leroy's point, the challenge is going to be our community, our smaller restaurants, our smaller stores, because they may not have the wherewithal to have, as Leroy said, the supplies, the hand sanitizer at the door for you to squeeze. Like we're talking even about hotels. Hotels, you got to have a hand sanitizer at the door, hand sanitizer at the elevator, hand sanitizer on every floor. So when you get off the elevator, you can, sanitize your hands. So when it comes back to our community, that mom and pop store on the corner, no, there isn't going to be anybody there to open the door for you. So we have to educate our community on how to conduct themselves. Washing your hands. We talk about gloves. Gloves is not the one-fit-all thing either, because the fact that you put on a glove, you touch something, it's just like touching it with your hands.
Right. So,
yes, you may be protecting yourself, but now you got to be cognizant of, I got this glove on, I can't touch my face. Because, they say we touch our face over 1,000 times a day. So you have to be cognizant. For instance, if I go to Costco or go to Publix, I put on gloves, I put on my mask. But when I come out of there, I'm pulling those gloves off and I'm putting them in the trash, even before I touch my car door handle, even before I touch my steering wheel. And even after I get in, I got this little container of sanitizer. I put it on my hand, I wipe my hand, and I rub down my steering wheel. So we have to educate our community on how they're going to have to conduct themselves. We talk about masks. Initially, it was masks, N95, this and that. You hear about all these different masks. It's not so much the type of mask, but the fact that you have face covering. You see people pulling up the T-shirt. If that's your face covering, that's your face covering. It's just to protect you from others who may be contagious. And we know there's those, what they say, asymptomatic, not what they call it?
Asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic, yeah. So you don't know the person is, whether they're sick. They may not be coughing, but they may be sick. So again, you may wear a bandana. It's not that it has to be a mask per se, but it has to be a face covering. What they're talking about in these Zoom meetings that I've been in for the last 4 days, all day long, with these different groups, as Leroy said, is, again, when you enter this place of business, how are the employees to be? They have to wear masks. How often do the employees have to wash their hands? How often does the counter have to be wiped down? We got to get that information out to our community.
Have any of those recommendations been solidified to determine that after a certain amount of time period that you need to wipe your counters down, like to the little corners?
That's what they're going through right now. Like I said, Leroy and I have been on calls since last Wednesday or Tuesday. Like you said, when the mayor had the first meeting. And literally, yesterday morning on Sunday, I was on a call at 9 o'clock. I was on a call at 10 o'clock, call at 11 o'clock, call at 12 o'clock, and then on some other. And what we're doing is looking at all of these moving parts. It's been presented to the mayor. the mayor said, well, you got to go back and tweak this, massage that, and then come back to me. And so those meetings will be happening. Presentations are being conducted with the mayor. And again, he'll say, tweak it and come back. And then he is going to analyze that with the medical professionals. So it all goes back to Leroy's point of making sure that we're safe. It's not about the economics. It's about, and the mayor keeps saying, he's not doing this until the medical professionals say it's safe to do it.
So what I'm hearing from you is, for businesses, something that they need to be considering during this time, because we don't know when they're going to open, is capacity for their place of business, some type of face mask for the store operator, their staff, and then the guests that or their customers that will be coming in addition to hand sanitation stations.
Depending on your business, if you're able to do that, or you have to wash your hands. Washing your hands, they say, is the best thing to do. Okay, you touch a surface, make sure you wash your hands. Capacity, going back to a little greenhouse or any of our restaurants in our communities, they're going to be cut 50% as far as capacity. If you were able to sit 50 people, you're going to be cut down to 25 people. It's going to have to be, you're going to have 6 feet between each customer. They're talking, from what I'm hearing, they're talking about putting plexiglass between tables.
So is that something else that our businesses need to be looking at, installing some sort of plexiglass in between customer areas?
So if I can jump in a little bit. So to piggyback a little bit on what Eric's saying. So I think it's going to have to be a different type of education for our community than some other communities. So we have a different way of communicating, and oftentimes it's not the TV and it's not the radio. Sometimes it's that verbal communication. So because our place are most likely to be much smaller, which means it's going to decrease the amount of people that can come in, which means they're going to decrease the revenue that's coming in. So when it's all over, we still going to suffer more. They got this thing, they say, well, when other communities catch a cold, we catch pneumonia, right? Because it rolls down the hill. So one, we know our capacity of generating funds is going to be depleted a lot longer than other communities that's well off. That's the first thing. Second thing is that we're not going to get the resources that's being put out, most likely, like other communities are being. So then that's another effect we're going to have to endure. Thirdly, we don't have the financial wherewithal now to equip ourselves with things that we need to get us ready for the opening. So that's another thing we got to look at. So I think the education part, what the mayor is doing now has to happen now before we consider opening. I think that part, the mayor is on point as it relates to doing that. So I commend him for that. But I do know that we're going to have to take a different approach in our community. Like, we can't wait for the cavalry to save us, because the cavalry is not coming to save us, right? It never had, and probably, I don't know when it's going to happen. But we can't sit around and just wait. We need to start educating our communities right now. I know one thing that could help. So every legal business have to have an LBT in Miami-Dade County. So the tax collectors department has every legal business that applied for an LBT 10 years or 20 years ago. So they should do some mass email and legal mailing out to every business about what the requirements going to be as it relates to them opening up. Simple. Like, they can do that and with no real effort, because they have everything in the database. So that would take a lot of work from ground people that's on the ground doing the work. The tax collectors can put the information out, and they can put it in different languages, right? And they can make it sensitive to that community. If they don't know how to do it, all they need to do is reach out to people that's already working at the community to know the language. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When you look at the mom and pop program, when you read it, like you might say to me, like you say to me, hey, Leroy, like the language, but this, the grammar ain't right. And I say, look, the grammar is right. And they say, well, no, this grammar wrong. I say, look, the grammar is right for the people who I'm serving. These people understand this grammar. That's why it's like, it might not be right for District 4, or another district, but it's right for District 3 because that's how they understand it. So we have to worry. That's a big thing in our community. Like when we read the newspaper, it's a lot of the language we don't understand. So I think, and I'm gonna mention this to the mayor, and if anybody else speak to the mayor before I speak to him about it, the tax collectors department, because they have every business information in the system, like they can get the word out quicker than anybody, and with different languages, and will it be sensitive to that community. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. We're running out of time. Did you have any closing thoughts, Eric? Because this is not the last time we're going to have this conversation.
We're running out of time already.
Yeah. As we continue, and as you all continue on your task force to develop these type of things that Black businesses need to be cognizant of, we want to bring you back. We want to, as Mr. Jones said, we're doing this because we're not waiting on them to tell us what it is that we need. Yeah. And that's the purpose of this show. We're here to try to let them know. So we will be bringing you back as information and other information becomes available. Mr. Knowles, I'm going to leave the last word with you to give your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I can't agree with Leroy any more than what he said. Our community is a different community. We communicate differently with one another. But there are going to be guidelines that are going to be put out there, and the county is going to reinforce those guidelines, and we need to get in front of it. So I look forward to engaging with you, Jessica. I love working with my brother Leroy. I love working with you too. I ain't just saying that because we almost talk every day. But yeah, there's a lot that we have to do in order to get our businesses up and running again. As a matter of fact, last night I was listening to CNN, and they were talking about Italy and what they're doing to reopen up. And they're going through the same thing as well. So this isn't something new, but we as a community, I think now more than ever, we probably will become closer together as a community. Absolutely. From this perspective, as well as supporting one another across the board.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Mr. Jones, you have a 30-second wrap up.
I'm good. I can't do nothing in 30 seconds, but I'm good. So I think I'm long-winded because I'm passionate about things, right? And I want to see everybody successful and succeed and live, so whatever it takes, So I think Eric closed it great. I couldn't add or take anything away from that. Thank you
both of you for coming on, and we look forward to continuing this conversation on the culture.
One last thing. We got to be real. We got to be safe. We got to stay home, self-distance, and be safe.
And let me say this. Just because you have on a mask don't save your life. A lot of people that's dead now had masks and gloves on. So Absolutely. Don't think that glove and no mask going to keep you from this disease or this virus. You know what I mean? So most of the people who died was wearing those masks and gloves.
Absolutely.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Jessica.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rock Star Media and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent by Jessica Garrett Motkins. All rights reserved 2020.